So what I'd like to do is have two separate sources of points, okay? I'd like one which is more kind of general, a few points here and there, and then another one with bursts of points. A bit like, imagine if something moves or falls in a fire, then you get a sudden kind of burst of embers. So to do that, let's make a separate stream here. You can see I've gone off to the left there. That's because I was preempting doing this. So I'm going to drop a sort first of all, and with a sort I'm just going to come to point sort and set this to random, and in the seed put in $f. Okay, so this is going to change my point numbers per frame. So if we visualize the point numbers there, zoom in closely so we can see them individually, and then go per frame, you can see them all changing. And if I turn this off, they'll still change. Actually, let me show you why I did that. Actually, if we drop a delete, basically I want to isolate just one point, and then now delete non-selected. So we can see our 0 point there, and now you can see it doesn't change, right? The other points are just adding to it. Well, it changed a little bit, but not so much for some reason. It's kind of static. But if I put this sort on, if we randomize the point number per frame, then it's completely changing every frame. Okay, it's dancing all over the scene. Okay, so so we've got 1 point moving per frame around the scene. So I'm going to use that point to grab a kind of a chunk of these points and emit a lot of points every now and then, basically. So we need we need to use this point to make a group. Let me say ISO 0, and this sort we're doing rand pt num. Good, and so let's grab a copy to points and a sphere. So this will be our points. We'll need a sphere. So this will make a group of points, right? We'll use primitive is fine. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. There we go. And there we'll see per frame now this sphere moving around our points and making a selection once I drop a group node of different points. So the bounding object will be the sphere, and then the points will be these points. There we go. So we need to be grabbing points. We don't have a base group. We want to keep in bounding regions and bounding object. Now we should, if we set this to wireframe, should have a selection made. There we go. So you can see these points in yellow are in the group, and that's changing, as I said, per frame. So let me get rid of that. Let's give this a better group name. Call this burst, and let's delete non-selected, and we'll say burst points. So there we go. So we got now something. We got a dot per frame in one location, which is changing every frame. So obviously we don't want to burst every frame, so we're just going to keyframe where we do want them. So I'm going to drop a switch and a null. Okay, and let me just switch these around just by habits, to be honest. So whenever this is set to 0, we have no points, and if it's set to 1, we have points, right? So I'm going to jump back into my camera, and let's come out and view the corridor, and set this to smooth white shaded. Back in here, show all objects. So I want to see this corridor, and I want to select frames, so with a good few, maybe 10-20 frames apart, and I want to select frames where this is not, I don't want them all to be around here or to be kind of behind around the door where I'm not going to see them anyway. So I'm going to make selections based on where this circle is, basically. So the first one is fine. We could leave it where it is here. So I'm going to press Alt click on that. So I'm on frame 23 there. Go back one frame. I'm going to drop a 0 there. Alt click on that. And then after another 0. Alt click on that. Oops, I've skipped a frame there. We can, if we middle click on that keyframe, you can move it. If I can target it, middle click, there we go. Okay, so we got nothing, and then on one frame we've got our points, and then nothing after. So now that I've got these, let me come up here and find another spot that I like. So that was on frame 23, so let's go. So the first one was here, so I'm trying to find one maybe a bit later that's far away from that area. Maybe there we go. So we got on frame 58 one here, so I'm going to come back down here, another keyframe on frame 58 with a value of 1 after a value of 0. Let's click on that, and before, so on frame 57, 0 there as well. There we go. So visualize that. Got off, on, off. There we go. So let's go back up here, go a bit more forward. So we got one here, then one here. So I'd like to have some, maybe one higher up, maybe. Let's see. Would be nice at one point. There we go. To have one on this piece of wood as well. So frame 127. Let's drop a keyframe there. Set that to 1. And then go back one frame, set that to 0. And then forward 2 frames, and set that to 0 again. Alt click. Great. Let's go forward. What do we have? 150 in total. Let's see where, maybe one kind of down here would be nice. We're getting towards the end of the sim now. So let's see. Put one there. Maybe we can put one in here somewhere. So we got this one, and this one. So we got one here, and one here. Let's see, maybe not there. Maybe there. That could be cool. So we get the two going off kind of close to each other. Okay. Oh, no, I need to set that to 1. Alt click on that. Go to the previous frame. Set that to 0. Alt click, and then the following frame, set that to 0. Great, so we'll start with that. Okay, and bring this down here. Maybe I'll put the velocity into the third input and this one into the second input, just so they're together. I'll just have to remember that when we change this. So this, remember, is the third input now. This is still the first input, but that's only bringing in those the other points. So I'm just going to drop this, and that is source first input, and this is going to be source second input. Okay, and I'll change that second input. We'll merge these together. And I'm going to give them some color so we can identify them. Make these blue and these red. There we go. And so for the first input, we want a constant birth rate of 50. So that's literally how many points you have per second, I believe it is. Yeah, per second. So we'll have 50 points per second. And then for the... Oh yeah, I want to add to the inherited velocity. So I'd like them to just have a bit of a burst going up in Y. Okay, so they'll get a bit of a push going up. I'm going to set, I don't want any variance to that. And for the, oh yeah, also for the life expectancy, so that they'll live for an average of 1.5 seconds with a variance of 0.5, so that anywhere between 1 and 2 seconds basically. So that's good for that one. And then for the second input, we want a lot more points. Okay, so I'm going to do 50,000. But remember, that's just on one frame. It's not 50, that's 50,000 over a second. So, you know, we won't have 50,000 points, but we'll have a lot. And I want the same life expectancy, 1.5 with a variance of 0.5. And let's see, the same. No, we'll leave the attributes off for this one. And yeah, that's fine. Okay, I think we are good to go with this. Oh, one more thing, we need a collider. So let me just turn this off. We can steal exactly the same thing from our fire sim. So just grab this. Okay, the roots should be the same. Okay, as they're not relative roots. Jump inside, Control V, merge that in, down there. Okay, swap the order around. And I think that's us good to go. So let's get rid of that. Set this to auto update. Maybe save this just in case. And let's make this full screen and run a flipbook of that. So 150 frames. Okay. Right, watching this now, I can see we've got loads of points. The movements is good, the velocity, I quite, you know, that's all fine. But I notice I've got lots of red and no blue, and I think I've got them back to front, the values. So let me come in here. So the second input, yeah, so the second input, which is red, is, okay, now I see I've got them back to front here. So this should be first context, and this is second context. There we go. So back to full screen. Oops, I think I just hit lights there. Escape. And let's try that again. There we go. So quite different. So they're kind of hard to see here against this background, the blue particles, but they are there. In fact, we've got all this cache. So let's just come here. Maybe let's just turn off the background because it's hard to see against that, and that's much better. And maybe we can visualize it with the corridor. Let's see, let's do that. There we go. And we can also make the points bigger. That's kind of a handy thing to do. Come here into, remember, press D to open these options. Come into geometry, and then we can make these bigger. Set it to 10 maybe. Maybe that's a bit much actually. 5 should be fine. And there we go, that's a bit easier to see. Let me set this frame range to 150 so that it will loop for us. So there we go, we can see it much easier now. You can see that kind of burst from these particles, and we're getting these a bit more, it's a bit more dynamic how we've got, you know, chunks kind of being born from different places randomly. Kind of looks nice. We've got, you know, instead of just a wash of particles all over the place in the same density, we got, you know, different amounts at different points throughout the sim. So it looks good.